Namaste. Welcome to this session. We are considering the sutra Tattpratishedartham Ekatatvaabhyaas. Now, Ekatatvaabhyaas is a position which doesn't stand in Buddhist philosophy. In Buddhist philosophy, which is called, they are called vainashikas, kshanikavadis, momentarists. For them, everything is momentary. And we are used to hear this in adhyatma, that everything is momentary. And nothing is permanent. But that is about the worldly objects, mundane objects, that nothing is permanent. But Bauddhas have a position that they make a sweeping statement that everything is momentary. And according to their philosophical standpoint, this Ekatatvaabhyaas is improbable, impossible. It is not plausible. And that is why Patanjali has brought out this sutra, and Bhashyakara has carried out the job of refuting the philosophical position of the Bauddhas, the Vainashikas. They say that the citta is a continuous flow, and every moment there is a new citta formulated, and then it lasts only for one moment and it goes away. So they do not accept anything as a substrate for citta, and they look at the citta as a pure prakritic material. And prakriti is fugitive, prakriti is chanchala, prakriti is constant under change and transformation. So there is no possibility of steadfastness and constancy, which Patanjali is mentioning. Ekatatvaabhyaas, ekatattvam. So the citta must get confined to one principle and should not be in the habit of giving up and taking up, as I said in the last session. So from their point of view, there is nothing like vikshipta citta, which Patanjali has already postulated in the Chitta Bhumis. Of course, that is Vyasa's postulation. Therefore, it is Patan jalas postulation. Patanjali has not said, but Patan jalas have said this. Mood, Kshipta, Vikshipta, Ekagra, Niruddha are the 5 bhumis. And according to Bauddha philosophers, there is no chance of this vikshipta citta, because citta itself lasts for a moment, and therefore it has no room for digression. And there is a continuous flow of citta, and therefore no citta is really getting digrated. It is another citta which is going to take another object as a support, and not the same citta changing the supports of objects. Basically because it lasts not more than one moment. So this is their philosophical standpoint. And therefore it needs to be refuted when Ekatatvaabhyaas has been postulated, is being postulated. And therefore, Vyasa takes this duty to refute their standpoint, the standpoint of Buddhist philosophers. So today I have to tell you, it is not Buddhism, it is Buddhist philosophers. And they are called Vainashikas. So therefore Vyasa says it is apasiddhantam. Apasiddhantam means it is false postulation, baseless postulation that the citta is a momentary thing, absolutely momentary thing. So that is not true. And then there are various illustrations which come to tell us that there is something constant. Even in the citta, there is something constant. Because we have this experience, what I saw yesterday is being touched today. I am touching it today. What I heard yesterday, I am seeing today. And this is our experience. This is part of life. I heard about this yesterday, I heard about this a year back, and today I am seeing it. That means there is something which is constant, even in our mind stuff. Otherwise, we would not have said this. Because if last moment mind is dead and this moment it's a new mind, the memory phenomenon would not be there. But however, memory phenomenon is experienced by all of us. So, something constant has to be accepted and it is experienced. And there is logic and reasoning behind holding it because of our memory and recognition aspects. So it is not absolutely true that the citta is momentary. And now in their case, they say citta is momentary, but still there is a continuum citta. What is their argument? You say, like, we have a concept called race, vansha, a family. Now, each one has a race which goes back to some centuries. The vansha, the family, the vansha, will be there continuing to be flourishing over centuries and centuries and centuries, while no one individual lives for 100 years. But still there is continuity. It is because of the concept of vansha or the race and the genealogical flow. So no individual is living, but still the whole race is living for hundreds of years, multi-hundreds of years, multiple hundreds of years, thousands of years. The race is continuing. The vansha is continuing. So they say it is like that. The vansha is continuing. The citta has a continuum, continuity, and therefore, just as the vansha is continued for centuries and many centuries and perhaps even a millennium or millennia. So similarly is the postulation. But as I said, the factor of memory, recognition doesn't tell us that there are countless of generations of citta in us. There is only one generation of citta during a lifetime at least. And therefore, we say what I had seen about 50 years back, I am seeing once again. What I had heard about 50 years back, I am seeing now. What I had seen 50, 60, 70 years back, I am seeing it once again today. So, it cannot be compared to something like race or creed or a family or vansha. So there is a substrate, and therefore the Patanjalas have very tenable position here that there is purus-tattva and there is citta-tattva, which is seemingly conscious because of proximity, and not only it lasts for a lifetime, it lasts for from time without beginning to time without end even. So therefore the transmigration is there, and we experience of our karmas of even last life, and we don't have any memory of it. So something is constant. The astral body, the sukshma sharira, the chitta itself is constant. This is what Patanjalas postulate. Therefore, the karma theory, karma siddhanta can be accommodated, and there is logic and reasoning behind accepting karma siddhanta. In the position of the Bauddhas, someone will be doing the action because the chitta does all actions. There is always the mind behind action. So one mind does the action and another mind faces the consequences of it. This is untenable. This is untenable. This is unjustifiable. Somebody else cannot be doing the karmas and somebody else cannot be facing the fructification of the karmas. So there is a lot of unreasonability in the postulation of vainashikas that chitta is a momentary thing. And even if the Bauddhas are trying to justify their position, Vyasa says in his commentary that it is like Gomaya Payasiya Nyaya. So by that maxim, they say it is just to protect their tenet. They are trying to bring explanations to their positions, which are all untenable. Therefore, it is possible that Ekatatvaabhyaas is possible. That's why we say, I have been doing this for 10 years. I have been doing this for 20 years. Now, actually, who is doing? It is the mind which is doing, mind which knows it is doing. But then, if there is a momentarism to be accepted, then this won't be case. We won't have such a condition coming up that I have been doing this for 10 years and 15 years and 20 years and 25 years. I have been persistently doing it for so many years. So that I, the aham vritti, is constant. And that's why the I, the pronoun I, you can't say it is momentary. It will die with the death and new I will come with new birth. The pronoun I will die at the point of death and new pronoun I will come up with a new incarnation. But then our experience is that what I saw is now being touched. What I had heard is now being seen. So aham vritti is something that is constant. And if that had not been constant, it had been momentary, then we would not have had the kind of life we have today. If the I is constantly changing, new I is coming every moment, then the vyavahara, the business activity of life would not be there. There would be no basis for business activity. I promised you 10 years back and now I am fulfilling your promise. So, if that pronoun I is not having continuity or continuum, then the whole business activity of the life will not stand. And therefore, there is a fault in their postulation of the momentarism applying everywhere. Objects are momentary, the mind is also momentary. But this is not what we experience at all. Nobody experiences this. So, therefore, Vainashika's postulation is apasiddhantam. So, in order to postulate that they are having apasiddhanta, they are having wrong tenets, untenable positions, Vyasa exposes them and therefore refutes their standpoint of view. Because with their standpoint of view, there would be no dhyana possible. But see the strange thing. They don't have a philosophical tenet to support what is called as dhyana. But Buddhas do have dhyana. You are aware of the Bauddha meditations. But their philosophical tenets do not really support. So the contradiction is there, because Buddhist meditation is known all over the world, but their theory in philosophy doesn't allow such a possibility. And therefore there are contradictions. And therefore their philosophies are full of confusions. They are trying to confuse the mind. Now, of course, today there is no Buddhist philosophy practiced by anyone but Buddhist religion. And in religion they do not see any such inconsistency. But philosophy and religion, if you recall, I had said there must be compatibility and they should be mutually supporting each other. There is no point in having a philosophy which contradicts with religion and religion which contradicts with its own philosophy. So that's how sticking to one object is a possibility, probability, and dhyana is also probability, had to be postulated. So that is why Vyasa has raised the weapon of refutation. And of course, in course of time, we will be looking at how Patanjalas have refuted the stands taken by Bauddhas. So there are Bauddhas having different branches like Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, the Vijnanavadins, and they have contradictory positions within themselves. They contradict with themselves. So, as and when the suitable topic appears, the Patanjalas have played this role of refuting the standpoint of Patanjalas, which is done by all the other 5 darshanas: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Mimamsa, Vedanta. They too have done this. Anyway, today we are not really, the common man is not familiar with philosophy of Buddha. We only today know something that is called as Buddhism. And we do not know about the philosophy. Unless you are a student of philosophy, you will never know what is posited, what is postulated in Buddhist philosophy. And the Buddhist philosophy was a major factor to be countered by all orthodox philosophies those 2500 years back, since then. Because at that time there was no Buddhism. Gautam Buddha did not was not a founder of Buddhism that we have today. He only was a philosopher. He postulated philosophies, philosophical tenets. And he had position bang opposite to that of the Vedikas. And therefore, his philosophy was considered to be heterodox philosophy. Atheistic philosophy, Nastic Darshana, atheistic philosophy. Although they believe in karma, that's a strange thing. They believe in karma siddhanta. And to postulate karma siddhanta, they have played some tricks and they have their own way of presenting it. Because they do accept karma siddhanta, reincarnation, etc. But the philosophy postulates the momentarism even in the citta, psyche, consciousness, pronoun I. And that's the flaw, that's the contradiction, and that is exposed by orthodox philosophers. All the Shaddarshanas have really exposed the philosophical tenets of the Buddhists. So that's the reason of this sutra, that it is possible to be sticking to a principle, and there are principles which are eternal principles, like Atma is an eternal principle, Paramatma is an eternal principle, Purusha-tattva is eternal principle, Purusha Vishesha is eternal principle, even Prakriti is eternal principle. The Prakriti too is eternal, but it is ever changing. So dharma dharmi concepts have been introduced. The dharmi is constant. The dharma is changing. There are dharma paranamas. The substrate is there. So the prakriti as a principle, material principle, it is constant. It is endless, beginningless and endless. It is adi, anadi. It is anadi, not sadi. So from adi kala, that is right from beginning of any cycle, every cycle of creation, the prakriti is there. Even when there is no creation and deluge, it is prakriti only. So prakriti has vyakta phases. Prakriti is not dislodged. Prakriti is not destroyed. As much as Atma is not destroyed. But Prakriti undergoes mutations and changes, transformations and vicissitudes, while the Atma, the Purusha Tattva, doesn't go for changes. It is aparinami. So these philosophical tenets are clearly and quite with sound logic and reasoning are postulated by the Vedikas and particularly Patanjalas, because we are looking at Patanjalas. So wonderful, very clear, very tenable positions are there in Patanjali's philosophy. And whatever is untenable in Buddhist philosophy has been refuted here. So that's the purpose of this sutra. So it will be also interesting to take reading of Vyasa's comment, which we'll be doing now. We'll take a reading of Vyasa's comment, then we will see how the tone of this bhashya is totally different. It is not just giving advices or giving information, but the sutra is here for refuting the prima facie view. So let's look into Vyasa's comment here. So Vyasa comments as thus: Tattpratishedartham ekatatvaabhyaas. The Sutra 1.32, which means the vikshepas, the obstacles, the antarayas are to be encountered, countered, defeated by ekatatvaabhyaas. By ekatattvaabhyaas. Now, Vyasa begins his comment by saying, Vikshepa pratishedartham ekatattvaavalambanam chittam abhyaset. Vikshepa pratishedartham, to counter the antarayas, vyadhi, adi, and their accompanying factors, dukkha, daurmanasyadi, to be countering them, to be defeating them, one must do abhyasa, one must practice ekatattvaavalambanam. That is sticking to one single principle steadfastly and with constancy. So the vikalpas, the vikshepas will be defeated. Then he says, Yasya tu pratyartha niyatam pratyyamatram kshanikam cha chittam tasya sarvameva chittam ekagram nastyeva vikshiptam. So he is now bringing the prima facie view. What is it? The momentarists, the vainashikas, kshanikavadis, Bauddhas, they say the pratyaya, the jnana, the experience, and the citta, which the substrate which gets it, experience, knowledge, etc., they are all momentary. They are all absolutely momentary. And any experience is just for a moment. No experience can prolong over a longer duration than a moment, because the substrate itself is not there. The substrate which experiences our citta, it is our psyche, it is our consciousness. But they postulate that it is only momentary, it comes and goes, precisely momentary. And therefore, actually, there is no chance of having jnana or experience or pratyaya. And if at all it is there, it is always ekagrata, because it cannot digrade. There is no space to digrade. There is no time and space given for digression. So, any perception, cognition is ekagrata. And the momentary citta can never be vikshipta. It cannot be wandering. Where is the space for it to wander? Yadi punaha idam sarvatah pratyahrutyayikasmin arthe samadhiyate tada bhavati ekagram iti ataha na pratyartha niyatam. Now, if the vrittis from all sides are abstracted, withdrawn, and then it is in one single object, then only it is ekagra. But by the view of momentarists, in any case the mind is only engrossed in one object. Now when you say I am concentrating, it implies that there is some duration. You concentrate for a minute or two or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you concentrate. You never say that you are concentrating when the mind is engaged with an object for a moment. That is not concentration. In that case, every time our mind is concentrating, because the mind lasts for a moment and therefore for one moment it is engaged with one object, and therefore that's concentration. But we don't call it concentration, because concentration needs a span of time. Concentration needs a span of time. Do you understand? So therefore, in their case, the mind is always engaged in one object because it lasts for one moment, and for next moment it is another mind which is getting engaged with that object or another object. So digressions are not possible. Yo api sadrusha pratyaya pravahena chittam ekagram manyate tasya ekagrata yadi pravaha chittasya dharma tad ekam nasti pravaha citta kshanikatvat. if the Vainashikas say that the chitta is catching a similar flow of objects, and if they hold that the succession of chitta, because chitta is momentary, therefore there will be succession of chitta. The succession of chitta, it is a flow. The chitta has a flow, and when the chitta, flow of chitta comprising of momentary chitta every time, if that is in similar flow of object, then that would be concentration for them. So 10, 15, 100, 200 generation of chitta are confined to one object. So, therefore, if that is their concentration or that is their meditation, and even with the momentarism, if they accept flow of chitta, then the chitta would not be one padartha, it won't be one object, because every time new chitta is coming, so it won't be one thing. And therefore, chitta ekagra is not possible. Therefore, the meditation concept is also not possible. So, this is how the position of momentarism is faulty. अथ प्रवाह अंशस्य एव प्रत्ययस्य धर्मः स सर्वः सदृश प्रत्यय प्रवाही वा विसदृश प्रत्यय प्रवाही प्रत्यर्थनीयतत्वात् एकाग्र एव इति विक्षिप्त चित्तानुपपत्ति. So, when there are two pravahas, sadrusha pravaha and visadrusha pravaha. That means flow of similar object and flow of dissimilar object. If the pravaha is the vritti dharma of chitta, then with similar object flowing or dissimilar object flowing, in both the cases, it would be one-pointedness of the mind. And therefore, ekagrata as such is untenable from their standpoint. Tasmat ekam anekartham avasthitam chittam iti. Therefore, he mentions the position of the theory of the Patan jalas. Tasmat ekam anekartham avasthitam chittam iti. Therefore, it is one chitta which goes into many objects. And that's why we call it digression. If the different chittas are going to different objects, you can't call it digression. One chitta going to different objects would be digression. So, it is one chitta which can get digrated, it is one chitta which can get concentrated. And therefore, the chitta is not a momentary entity. Then he says, if the chitta is momentary, one chitta will experience object. But then it will be another chitta which would be recalling it. And therefore, the position is untenable, because memory is something that is experienced by everyone. And memory is also valid. Memory is not invalidated, like perhaps the dream is invalidated. So, according to their position, it is one chitta which is going to get experienced and another chitta which is going to recall it, recollect it, or remember it. And therefore, this is absolutely absurd and untenable position. And their position is such that actually they cannot be presenting any argument to substantiate their position or establish their position. There is no way, because it is asat. Their theory is untruth. If it is untruthful theory, there is no way that it can be reinforced and made as satya siddhanta or siddhanta. So then he says, the body of chitta, if you accept this body of chitta, the experience also will not come like we saw that what I saw yesterday I am touching today. What I had seen then I am touching it now. Or what I had heard earlier, now I am seeing it. So such experience also will have no base. There will be no basis for such experience, which is absolutely valid, and no one can really refuse or refute this experience that we have. So our jnana shows that it is evolving gradually. So there is one steady substrate which is getting the knowledge, steady substrate, wherefore there is memory of it, wherefore there is experience of it, anubhava of it, etc. And therefore their position is absolutely untenable. And therefore Ekatatvaabhyaas postulation is absolutely terrible position. Now, with this, actually this sutra is coming to an end. But you see, this is our problem, that we cannot be steadfast. Ekatatvaabhyaasa becomes difficult, or Ishwar Pranidhana uninterrupted becomes difficult because of mind wandering, mind rambling, mind restless, mind fugitive, mind mercurial. How Ekatatvaabhyaasa is possible? The question remains. Patanjali is advising that we must stick, but then we have no basis to be sticking. If you are walking on a path which is full of banana skin, what is the chance that you will steadily walk? You will keep on falling. With every step that you put in, you will be slipping and falling, because you are walking on something which is covered by banana skins. And you know what happens if you step on banana skin. So then what is the way out? Okay, we accept that we must stick. Our mind should be steadfast. Yes, our mind should be constant. We take it. But practically, we face lots of difficulty. Mind doesn't stay on, mind doesn't stick on, mind doesn't persist, mind doesn't persevere. Now here, it is Ishvara Pranidhanam that has to be done. Ekatatvaabhyaasa means to be sticking to Ishvara Pranidhanam. But the practical problem is that our mind will not be getting fastened to Ishvara Pranidhana. That's the practical problem. How to go about for this Ekatatvaabhyaasa? Yes, you have given a remedy, you have given a measure in order to counter or defeat the obstacles. We must practice Ekatatvaabhyaasa. But then practical problem is that itself is not possible. So what is the way out? And therefore Patanjali now comes up with a unique topic called chitta parikarma. So some kind of chitta treatment needs to be given. We need to treat the chitta so that it will be sticking on to Ishvara Pranidhana. And it won't be slipping, like slipping over banana skin. So something, if you should be walking without slipping, we have to see that there is no slippery in the path. You can't be laying all over, pour some oil all over the floor or spread banana skin all over and then ask us to walk steadily. Yes, to walk steady has been, we accept, we must walk steadily. But then if the path is full of oil and you have poured oil on it or something which is slippery, banana skin like, how to be steady there? So you can't ask someone to be walking steadily where it is full of oil coated paths. Oil has been spilled over the ground and then you are asked to walk steadily. This is impossible. Now this is the condition of our chitta, that it slips into so many objects, it digrades, it goes here and there. It cannot follow the radar, although it is intending to follow the instruction of the radar, direction of radar, it cannot follow. Like we cannot be walking steadily on oil coated surface. We will be falling, flipping, slipping. Then what is the way out? We accept your advice that yes, we must stick to one object. But that is not possible for our mind. Our mind is such that it cannot be sticking to Ishvara Pranidhanam. And that is our experience. When you try to meditate on divinity, you know what happens. Perhaps you can be engrossed in a fiction. You can be reading it for hours and hours and hours without digression. But to be doing japa, onkar japa, or nama japa, or Ishvara Pranidhana, the mind doesn't have the culture to be doing it. The mind has culture to be getting digradated, diverted, etc. So, the problem is not still answered. Yes, antarayas to be countered are to be countered with ekatatvaabhyaas, but this measure itself is impossible, improbable. And therefore, the obvious question is, how should we be adhering to what you are suggesting, ekatatvaabhyaas? How can we be steadfastly sticking to onkara japa sadhana, pranava sadhana, Ishvara upasana, Ishvara pranidhana? So, the answer is our chitta is unfit to be doing it. We need to treat our chitta. We need to do something for our chitta so that it will be steadfast where it should be steadfast. Where it is very difficult to be steadfast. So that is called chitta parikarma, chitta prasadana. So it is some treatment for chitta to be given. So when you give that treatment to that chitta, then you will be able to stick to ekatatvaabhyaas, you will be able to stick to Ishvara Pranidhana, ekatattvaavalambanam, all that has been postulated. So now the interesting topic comes up. Something needs to be on the path of ekatattvaavalambanam or ekatatvaabhyaas. Ordinarily, the chitta cannot be like that. It can be steadfast in reading a novel. Hours together it will be steadfastly reading, without digression reading. But to be doing something in yoga, adhyatma, paramartha is not possible for the mind which is soaked in mundanity. Like, as I gave example, the road where oil has been spilled, that is very difficult to be steadily moving on the road. This is how our mind has a road, that the mind goes on slipping, mind goes on falling, it falls here and there, it goes here and there. You can't be steadily walking on a path which is full of slipping everywhere. You will umpteen number of times and fall and again get up and start walking. But you will be slipping in right direction and left direction So, therefore, something has to be done. The road must be cleaned. The road must not be having such kind of condition whereby you slip. So, the road has to be cleaned, washed, sanitized, then you can be steadily walking. Similarly, something has to be done to the mind. Something has to be done to the citta. Then the citta will not be prone to falls, fumbles, slips, digressions. So, what to do to get this Ekatatvaabhyaas, by which we will be able to counter antarayas. By countering antarayas, we will be getting yoga, because the antarayas will be set aside. So, the topic of chitta parikarma is coming up. Chitta parishuddhi. It's a purification of the chitta. The pure chitta will not digrade. Dented, tainted, muted chitta will be slipping here and there and everywhere and all the time. So therefore now the topic comes up, purificatory actions on chitta. When the chitta is being purified and is purified, then you will be able to stick to Ekatatvaabhyaas, by which you will encounter antarayas, on account of which you will get to the goal of your yoga. So what needs to be done to chitta is going to commence. That's called chitta parikarma. In simple words, when you sit for meditation, your mind is super mercurial, worse than a monkey. Your mind is quite steady when you are not meditating, when you are not in japa. You sit for japa, the mind will digrade, will be fluttering more than ever before. It is only during japa the mind is disturbed. Otherwise, mind is not disturbed. You sit, close your eyes and embark upon japa, you will see how the mind plays monkey tricks. So in order that on the field of meditation where the mind plays monkey tricks, in order that it doesn't play monkey tricks, something needs to be done. That is called chitta parikarma. We don't do that, and therefore our meditations fail, our japa fails, and sometimes they fail to such an extent that we get up by fretting and fuming. We are more composed before launching onto japa and dhyana, and we are more disturbed than ever when we really revoke our japa and dhyana. We revoke it because we are pestered, we are harassed, we are tormented because the mind cannot be really steadying. And that is why our meditations are failing. So Patanjali is going to commence a topic whereby he will give some tips. Wherefore our mind, our chitta will not fail in its endeavor to be going for meditation, going for dhyana, going for japa. So it is very important topic that is going to commence. The topic of chitta parikarma. Chitta prasadanam. Purificatory acts. In simple word, cosmetics to chitta. But it's not really cosmetics to chitta, but cosmetics are temporary. So, cosmicalization of chitta. We must cosmicalize the chitta, then it will be capable and qualified and even empowered for dhyana, japa, meditation. We don't do it, therefore it is not empowered. So the mind has to be cosmicalized. Our mind is chaosized. Because the mind is chaosized, we face difficulty. So we are not understanding protocol to go to dhyana. So Patanjali is giving us a protocol. If you adhere to that, then you will be much more smoother and perhaps with rate of success, that you will be able to enter the realm of dhyana, realm of japa, realm of meditation, etc. So he is giving us few tips as to what we need to do that. So we are incapable of ekatatvaabhyaas. We know that. He has given the measure. counter antarayas, Ekatatvaabhyaas. But then we are not having qualification and the empowerment for Ekatatvaabhyaas. We need to take another step. That step is being mentioned. And that's how he is giving a practical tip. And in Yoga Sutras, you have lots of practical tips. You must do this. If not this, this is the way to get qualified. Do something to be doing that. If that too is not possible, something else will be told. Do this so that you will be doing that, and therefore you will be going to getting qualified to be doing that. So the sadhana, the practices, the means are opened out by Patanjali. So this is the means whereby the mind will be qualified, capable, capacitated, and empowered to go to Ekatatvaabhyaas. So that is chitta parikarma. But that's the topic for next time. Namaskar all of you.